Hello. Oh my gosh. Let's just fade this out. How's everyone doing? I hope you're better than me right now. Okay, it looks like most people have found it across here. Yeah. So, big stream today. Obviously, link the stream. Lucia wants me to link the stream. Okay, I need to link. Oh my gosh. Right. Chat amongst yourselves for 2 seconds while I work out how to do this, which I think I can only do on my phone. So this, which is the one which I'm actually playing right now. Oh my gosh, this is so hard. Why, why does anyone decide to do this? This is, okay, here we go. Right. So this is this is a stream I need to link people to. Um, and what doesn't help, you should chat here. You should chat where you are chatting currently, Bubble J. That is that chat there for sure. Um, I don't know how to find the link for this. I'm like, oh, here we go. Okay, share. Okay, to preface everything that happens tonight, um, I have been ill for over a week now. Um, go here, paste. Right. I've been ill for over a week. I am now sick of being sick. Um, like I'm really quite bored of it. Um, I've been in bed for a long time. It's not been fun. Luckily, I've had some scoops to kind of sort that out, which has been quite nice. But you know, today I had to pull out the big guns. I've got two screens on the go, so I don't know where I'm meant to be looking. I've thought I'll do the thing which people do, and they put up, you know, the stream in advance. You can all like join it. You can all join it. I told Manavrid when he said, you know, you could give me a link. I'll send it on our socials. And I was like, yeah. I mean, last time I did this, I really screwed it up. But you know, I was like, no, I'm going to make it happen. And it looked like it was fine. It was not fine. Clearly, it was not fine because we're currently in this situation. But I do hope that most people have found it over. It appears that they do. Also, just straight up shout out to Jack Keys, second comment in the post. What a lovely comment. Excellent stuff. Um, so, we should probably like talk about some scoops, I guess. Um, this is the In Your Face stream. So, first scoop, first, see, I don't know where the camera even is. It's here, right? First scoop today uh, is please. Yes, it's this. It's not even cards. Ah, I told you. I have got cards. Trust me, I've got cards. Um, I will do cards, but first, one thing which I can scoop to you immediately is 2024 UK Nationals. You probably know that it's happening. Um, Pin the message. I don't. Sorry, Lucy. I would love to, but there's no chance I can deal with that right now. Um, so you've probably heard this is happening, but I can now reveal more information, which is here. Cha cha cha. So these are the dates, the not necessarily venues, but the places where UK regionals is going to happen. It's going to kick off, probably. I mean, it's definitely going to happen. It's definitely going to be 27th of June, Bristol. Whether that's a kick-off or not, I'll get to that in a second. 27th of June, Bristol. It's going to be at the brand new Excelsior Games Space, which is going to be awesome. 10th of August, Nottingham at the Dice Cup. Then the 24th of August in Aldershot at the Game Shop, you can go and play with Swifty. Everyone loves to do that. 7th of September, Edinburgh at the Tabletop Scotland thing. Nick, you can have your money back. 21st, oh man, look at that. 21st September is going to be Cambridge. That's going to be EA, East Anglian, and venue still being sorted for that. And then last but not least, and maybe not last, is Manchester, which will either be like right at the end or it might actually be right at the beginning. But it's still very TBC. Pester Mark about it. Don't pester Mark about it, really. But yes, that's just the only date that's still to be revealed. Prize support, we will have more details for you shortly. But what I can tell you is that there are going to be 4 dedicated arts which we have commissioned or are commissioning, are being made. We have commissioned. They are being. I don't know how the plural works on that. Which are currently being made for this. There will be one exclusively for a mat for, I believe we settled on top 4. I can't remember. Oh gosh, I do mean the 27th of July. Thank you, Rowan. Okay, like I said, I have been sick for a week. This is not the 27th of June. That's July. Stop. Take it out of your diary right now. It's my own frickin' one and I can't get the date right. 27th of July. July. Please don't turn up on the 27th of June. We will not be ready for you. Thank you for being that guy, Rowan, because I need someone to be right now. Someone earlier said slickest streamer on the block, right? That's me. Anyway, 4 arts. We're making 4 arts. One is going to be on a playmat, which I think the top 4 will receive at each of the events. And then 3 of the others will be on exclusive door prizes. You will only need to turn up to the events and they're going to be split. So there'll be there'll be 3 sets of 2. So like, I think Bristol and I can't remember who Bristol's sharing with, but like 2 of the events will have the same one. But either way, it will be awesome. Oh yeah, that's a really good reason that it's not the 27th of June, because that is when EAMEA is, and I have a ticket to that and a flight and everything. That's probably why that date was in my head, because I think that's when I'm flying out, maybe. But yeah, definitely don't come to Bristol in June the 27th. Go to Italy instead. It'll be great. Okay, so that's cool. UK regionals. Great. Right, final warning. I'm probably gonna at some point like lose my voice and make some disgusting noises, and oh my gosh, Jai is awake. It's like 3 o'clock in the morning for him or something stupid. Excellent work, sir. Okay. Should we look at some cards? If people were, Jai's not going to be on the stream. I could not pull Jai onto a stream at 3:30 a.m. in the morning, Sanjay, as much as I'd love to. Maybe I should. Like, let's just get him on, like, because I don't need other stuff to go wrong. On one of the days this weekend, I think Sunday, put out a little story. It was a story all about Mercury and Akiko. Interesting that it was about them, wasn't it? And nice comment, Izzy. And it was a story about them. And if you worked your way through that story, you might have realized a few things. And at this point, I was going to read through the story, and then I realized that I do not have potentially the capacity to do that. So I'm just going to go through the clues. Okay, so you would have realized that it was a resource. You'd have probably realized it was a bit seedy. It was a one coster and it had pretty in the name somewhere. It was definitely a connection. There was also a hint with As McCaffrey being there. It is a Shaper card. You may have worked that one out. It is one influence given away by a very one bad influence who was Rotage One sitting at the bar. Then we found out that her name was Mary, and this one was a bit hidden because de Silva means from the forest in Portuguese. Have a look through the story later. I'll link it later. We found out that she wore a long trench coat and a hat which covered the brim. Where was this story? I will put it in the link afterwards because I forgot to do that beforehand. But yeah. She had a unique figure, and she was shapely. This is where the shape symbol is. And then even her flavor text was hidden within the. If you don't believe me that all these clues were in there and you read through them, there they are. There, all the clues were in there. Everything that you needed to know about the card was there. Pretty plain and light of day, really. I'm surprised no one got it. But what does this do? What would a story which was about Mercury and Akiko and Mary was a very nice lady. She was very happy to give you a scoop, as long as you had a scoop to give her in return. But if you didn't have a scoop to give her, she wasn't going to give you a scoop. Pretty Mary de Silva says, whenever you breach R&D, if you are allowed to access 2 or more cards in R&D during this breach, you may access 1 additional card. Okay. Let's talk about it. Let me have a drink first. So, the main characters of our story, outside of Wu, were Akiko and Mercury for pretty good reason. I think you can see here, like, this is like an easy slot to turn both of their abilities into something maybe a little more kind of interesting to play around with. Mercury, you're running through a lot of hoops to try and access 1 additional card on HQ or R&D. What if that was 2 extra cards? That feels kind of good. And this is 1 cost and 1 influence and kind of an easy splash, right? Someone's already called it out in the chat, but Nyashia, which is like obviously a kind of like, why would you play this? You can play Turbine. But were some Captain Padma decks recently which were running a lot of Nyashias, and this kind of turns those Nyashia counters into something maybe a bit more relevant, maybe a bit more powerful. Like, you've got 3 you've got technically unlimited oh my gosh, my brain. Run events, the shape of run event, for one they're well known for, where you get to see free cards on R&D, but you've got unlimited ones of those with Padma using this. Maker's Eyes, there we go, Maker's Eyes. Even jailbreak stonks, like, pretty good with this. I think you're probably, if you're putting this in your deck, you're probably looking at something with like a little bit more longevity than jailbreaks, but it's still like not a bad include. Originally this slide did have a Mind's Eye on it, and I was going to talk all about that whole new sort of viable until I realized that Mind's Eye unfortunately does not breach R&D, so you cannot use Mary de Silva on a Mind's Eye click. Shame. Beatrice is definitely an option here. All of a sudden, like we've said, like most people have said, that Beatrice feels like pretty expensive, right? You're like 2 clicks. You've got to install her. You're getting 2 accesses on R&D, and you've got to run through HQ. What if that was 3 accesses? What if that was 4 accesses because you had a wake down as well? All of a sudden, we're getting like quite nice things going on here. This is also an Ocarina card. Very good. That's a fun little Ocarina card. Now, I don't necessarily see this actually seeing that much play in Shaper. I potentially see it seeing more in other factions. Zaya loves making lots of like big multi-access. Why not pay 1 credit and 1 influence to make that even more? As obviously, we've got to mention as this is a connection. He installs it for free, and like wake is a pretty good way of like maybe we only need 1 wake charge to then get multiple cards off R&D. And Mercury we've already talked about. Mercury just seems like a pretty natural fit here. I'm gonna read Jamie's note because it could be rules related. Whenever you make a successful, oh no, they were just okay. That's fine. They were just including the. Oh right, they have instantly turned it into an ocarina card. I think right. Not sure. More connectors for Paul's Cafe Shaper. Damn right. So good to see playing Anarch. Well, there's a load of like interesting Anarch R&D multi-access which doesn't really get used. Maybe we start to see a bit more of this. Like obviously Finality sees use in ESSA, but not much outside of it. So this kind of extends some of these abilities a little bit. However, why are you playing any of them when Anarch can just play the twinning? And all of a sudden your twinning counters going a lot further when you only need to use 1 to see a Maker's Eye on R&D, and then you can spend the rest on HQ. Oh right, mine's yeah, right, fine. But this is, I think, probably where she makes the most sense. So Sebastio Eru decks, which is definitely a thing. Mary is a connection, so we've already got that that sort of synergy with Sebastio. Eru makes a run on archives, and especially when at threat free, she already sees an extra card. All of a sudden, you're already seeing 2 extra cards, and maybe you've got like a twinning, or you've got something else like like the Exa or something like that, where just so that you can, even when you're playing this early on, you're still kind of getting it. This is potentially the deck which I see her falling into immediately. Obviously, lots more cards to come out, so who knows? Okay. What does anyone else think? There's a lot of chat going on in chat, so I'm going to try and go through it. Strawberry Pudding mentions MU Safecracker. It is one of the cards of all time. And obviously, like, there's lots of other run events. Oh, hold up. Mind's Eye does breach. Does it breach? Maybe I was reading. You remember Freak Breach R&D. Ooh, so I was probably reading my card art, right? I assume that's been changed. Well, I just need to go back now and like completely put back in what I originally thought was cool. So you could use, right. Well, we're going back, guys. So, how far do we have to go back? Quite far. So bang! Now I can talk about the whole kind of package which came out recently with these Captain Papa decks, which didn't run very much. They charged up a Mind's Eye, they installed a load of Niashias, and then they'd kind of just click Mind's Eye and kind of win, maybe, hopefully, and then make a few more runs, running with Poison Vial and the like pirate materials, for use of a better word. Pretty Mary to Silva is a very easy install that just makes all of those times where you're clicking Mind's Eye and accessing a bunch of stuff like better, right? That just seems kind of perfect. Pretty sick. Right, now I've got to go all the way back here. Blah blah blah. Da, da, da. Cool. Okay, I know better. I know rules better than I thought I knew rules, and then I've gone back and changed it. Right. Sorry. Any anything else? But we should talk about Mary before I talk about this absolute nightmare which I put on some people. Um, I can't. Oh my gosh, there's a lot of stuff going on. All right. First of all, this is actually too greedy for Seb. Requires Iru and Fret Free to do everything. Yeah, maybe. But like by the time you've drawn her and Iru and got it all down, then you're going to be at Fret Free, right? Surely. Right. On Saturday, I posted a deck on NRDB, and it was this deck, and it had this description. And each of these things, this is not very helpful, I realise, for the stream, but each of these numbers represented one of these cards. And essentially, I had run the card which I've been given through a card generator, the Baram Wu card generator, and it had spit out this card generation script. Now, I quickly realized that I had made this puzzle too hard. But fair play, particularly to Lucy and Nick and Chaos of 99, and a few other people, but those three like made some real strides. And actually, with about 2 hours to go before today, they were pretty close. Let's run this card generation script, shall we? Let's all pretend that there's a typewriter sound going on right now. Clack, 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 clack. Because I tried to program it, but we know what happens when I try to add things onto the streams at the last minute, right? We are going to slowly, very slowly put you out of your misery, Nick. Ticky tacky, clicky clacky, clicky clicky clacky clacky. And if this looks like nonsense to you, once you see the card, it's not going to help very much. Clackety clack, click clack, click clack, 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 clack. There you go. I'll let you screenshot that, or I'll just send you all the answers later for someone who got it later. Okay. Let's look at this card. This is Culation. And my first thought about this card is written in big white writing up here. Because this took me a long time just looking at the words and reading the words, and then reading the words out loud to make sure I really understood what the hell was going on. Because I was like, what is it? Because what is it? So, it's a 1-cost, 1 MU criminal program with no subtype. It's 2 influence, and it says 3 paragraphs of text. Limit 1 hosted card. Then access 1 credit. So this is a you may thing, like by putting a credit in. Host the non-agenda card you are accessing face up on this program. If it was installed, it becomes uninstalled. Okay, fine. Whenever you breach HQ, if this program has a hosted corp card, you may pay 1 credit and trash this program to access 2 additional cards. Okay. So, what is this card? It has a limit 1 hosted card. I'm just going to break down the paragraphs a little bit here. Very, very important, because if this didn't have limit 1 hosted card, this card would be so stupidly broken, right? You can't like have a program which can host like a million other cards on it. That's the kind of broken shit they give to anarchs. Hand board disruption is what this like with middle paragraph does, right? So you can take a card from the corpse, like say you see in hand or see in R&D, and you can host it on this card, which means you're taking it away from the corp. Same if it's something on the board, right? So you take it, like Izzy says in chat here, you could use it on a hostile infrastructure. And then you haven't trashed the hostile infrastructure, you're not taking 2 meat damage, and all of a sudden, like, the corp's in a bit of trouble there. And it's not a trash ability, and this is really important for other things. This does not. This is hand disruption or card disruption, which doesn't proc oppo research. It doesn't proc riot suppression, wake up call, any of those other things. That's kind of mental. We kind of haven't seen this before, I don't think. The closest thing to this is More, but More is random, and More doesn't work on cards which are installed on the board or in R&D, or it's very weird. Veronica says it works the same as Imp, and in some ways it does, but importantly it doesn't, because it doesn't trash. And then this third paragraph is potentially like the most easy one to understand. This is a form of HQ multi-access. Okay. Right. So what do you do with this? Criminal. Criminal might play this. But Criminal has problems potentially playing this card. Let's look at those problems. So, Criminal's MU slots are pretty tight right now, right? Like, amongst your bankrolls and your Chesvers and everything else, do you have space for this? Is this a tech card which you want that will kind of take over those other spaces? Maybe, but it's hard to slot in a faction with very sort of tight MU. It's not tutorable in faction. This isn't an icebreaker, so you can't get it with mutual favor. So pretty hard to kind of get hold of this anywhere. And this is already a faction that has HQ multi-access. Like, you're not going to be playing this purely as a HQ multi-access card, because why wouldn't you just play like a Doxon's Pass or something like that? So Criminal might not, but there are reasons Criminal could play it, or builds that I see it being played in. Okay, this is reliable in faction disruption, which is something that Criminal doesn't have. Outside of credit disruption, they have, but they have embezzle, and everyone like knows how rough it is when embezzle completely whiffs, if you've played it before. But this is reliable. You see a card, you're like, I don't want you to have that card. Give me that card. Turtle still gets a counter. Now, that's just a one-time thing, but that can be... I've had those runs where you're like, I'm going to run HQ twice, get 2 turtle counters, and then I'm going to run the remote because I need 4 turtle counters or whatever. And you see something that you want to trash, or you kind of have to trash. And, you know, it's just that time where you're like, well, actually, I still get my counter, and you don't get your thing. And then symbol chip as. Pretty cool. Like, that's a place which I could see this, because if you can get more uses off this card by bringing it back, then that's pretty cool. Yeah, as far as I'm aware, just to bring up something in chat, I'm pretty sure you can't avoid like ambushes with this, because it says you are accessing. Jamie is in chat, I think, but like as far as I'm aware, that means you have already accessed. You've already accessed the snare. You've taken 3 net damage and a tag. You could then host the snare if you want to. But yeah, in the same way that you can't do it with Imp, it's not that good. It's still really good potentially, but it's not insane. The faction that I can see playing this the most is Shaper. Why would Shaper play this the most? Well, also this is me. I mean, come on. It's tutorable. It's a program. Shaper can get programs, and it's recurrable. Shaper's very, very good at reusing their programs. Mango Feet, in terms of as, I was purely just thinking an as that plays 3 symbol chips anyway, just before that like gets out of hand. So we can find it, we can reuse it. That's pretty good already. With a faction, Shaper being the faction with the most access to MU, so we don't care too much about the fact that this is going to take up an MU slot. That's not a problem. Also, it's a program. It procs a load of our stuff like DZMZ and Lilypad and etc. 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 You could even install it. Let's not get to that yet. Okay. Shaper doesn't have access in faction to either of these effects naturally. So they don't have that kind of imp in faction type thing. They have to import that. They don't have HQ multi-access in faction. They have to import that. This does both of those things for 2 influence. I mean, yeah, they have Burner now. But this is more specific, right? Burner is still a little bit... Burner is still a tiny bit random, because if there's 5 cards in hand, you don't know which 3 you're going to see. So this seems really powerful in potential Shaper builds because of that. Also, like, this isn't the worst thing to just Aesops or spec work away. If you don't need that HQ multi-access at that time, then just sell it for free credits. You've picked up an Oppo research out of the opponent's hand, and then you gain free credits selling it off. Seems pretty good to me. Not too bad. Jai pointing out as well, yeah, when this trashes itself, that procs your simul chips. You could simul chip it straight back. Very, very nice. Okay. What about the Anarch faction? Waggles, I was just about to mention Ari bringing one of these out mid-run, but it gets a bit confusing, but there are times when you would do it. So, Anarchs. Firstly, would they play this? They already have plenty of in-faction disruption. They've got things like Imp, and, Carnival. And new cards, Eye for an Eye, for instance. They already have good HQ multi-access, with the twinning being in faction. And this is the big question. Is it better than Imp? Hard to say, because you can only use this once. You can use Imp twice, or as many times as you want if you've got a Nobka down. But you can get an Imp purged out, so if you haven't used it like that turn, it's like a bit trickier. So while Imp is around, it's probably not going to get... It doesn't make the most sense. There probably will be some builds out there with it, but it doesn't make the most sense. Apart from here, right? Because this still gets a more trigger. Okay, the first time each turn you access a card not in archives and do not steal or trash it. And that is what we're doing here. We're accessing a card in HQ or R&D, and we're not stealing it or trashing it. We're hosting it on this card. So we still get a more trigger and a Neos trigger, if that's a thing. So, and also these builds have a ton of MU because they've already got 2. That is the one place I could see this ending up, because more decks don't want to play Imp, really. So we'll see. But what makes this card truly unique? And this is, it was really putting together this whole presentation that got me thinking more about this card, because I kind of wrote it off a bit to start with. I was like, this looks a bit weird. It's kind of interesting. It's the kind of thing I'm probably going to play on WooTube, but there's like what makes this really stand out? And there is one thing that makes this really stand out. There is one thing which this card does, which no other card in the current format does. It's this. Okay? This potentially gives you a way of completely removing a corpse win con. Let's imagine you're playing against a corp which has got a very sort of a very narrow win con, but a strong one. For instance, let's think about Bath Thule. Okay, so that basically is looking to get you into a point where it can give you a tag and it plays an end of the line and you die. That deck has enough influence for one end of the line, if I'm not mistaken. If you find that end of the line and you have a copulation down and you host the end of the line on the copulation and then you just leave the copulation, what do they do? If you're playing against a deck which is a Biotic Labour Red Planet's Couriers deck, and you find the Red Planet Couriers, and you put it on a copulation, and then you just leave it, what do they do? Like, this is different to the other option you have would be to, you can trash those cards with Imp, but every single Corp under the sun is playing 3 copies of Spin Doctor, so they can always get their cards back from the bin. Cards aren't safe in the bin. If this card, if the Corp's win condition is on one of your cards, and they don't have to have a way to trash one of your cards, that's a way of completely removing a Corp's win con. Obviously, this is only against decks with like narrower win cons, but that seems potential. That really seems like it has potential as being something which is going to turn up in some broken deck, probably to answer some broken Corp deck. That's what I'm calling. And that's it. We haven't really seen this idea of removal of Corp win cons, like proper removal, since the days of Archives Interface and Southset Slums. And did we want these cards back? I don't know. I have heard some people call for them recently, and it's funny, isn't it? Because the Shaper card is like a bit of a sort of R&D interface, and the Crim card is a bit of an HQ interface thing. But we should move on. I have left this section here to ask people's thoughts, but literally I can't keep up with chat. So first person to put a thought down, I will read. Wait, I can't use this with Pinhole. No, you can't use this with Pinhole. That's it. Mavirus is you are still hosting. All right. Oh, and really importantly, this is non-agendas, because when I first read this, I went a bit nuts and I thought you could host agendas on it, and that would be pretty insane. Okay, right, let's look at our last card. Oh, sorry, it's a bit small. Oh, no. Oh, no, that's not the right. It's not the right card. What's... Oh. Okay, well, that's... okay. So if you're around on UK Slack today, you might have seen this little clue. Good acting, wasn't it, Axie? You loved it. Definitely not planned. Absolutely. And this was quite a fun one because lots of people had some ideas about what this might be. Let's have a look. This has got a lot of text. This is a 1-cost, 1 MU Anarch virus. It's called Heliamphora. Heliamphora are pitcher plants. You might know them as. You find them all over South Africa, particularly in Venezuela. This art is pretty beautiful. Cat Shen absolutely nailing it here. This says, interrupt. Whenever you would access a card in Archives, you may host it face up on this program instead, if it is not installed. Use this ability only once each time you breach Archives. New sentence. When the Corp purges virus counters, they trash 2 cards from HQ at random. Trash this program. Right? So I've I've not really prepared anything on this because I do not know what to think about this. I think this card, like when I first saw the three cards, I was like, well, they've done it again. Uh, they've clearly just given Anarch the like super broken card. But the more I thought about Culation, I'm like, this one, you could put all the Corp win cons on it, but they could always purge to get them back, right? But this one can put agendas on it. So if you're tired of losing to punitive RH, then install a Helam Fora and run run archives, and then look at the RH player look very very worried about what's going to happen. Even better than that, there are ways of trashing this on your turn quite easily. You can just overinstall it. So this card could set up a pretty nasty Mad Dash turn. So that's fun. And then there's this second sentence, right? When the court purges virus counter, they trash 2 cards from HQ at random. Trash this program. Now that's not a cost. So as far as I'm aware, and Jamie, please correct me if I'm wrong, the corp could still purge even if they don't have 2 cards in HQ, and then they just would trash up to what they could or none. I don't know, but so it's not a cost. However, it's also not linked to that first sentence in any way. So if you put one of these down, then any time the court purges, they have to trash 2 cards from HQ. And there's one thing which is really missing from this card, which makes me a little bit worried, which is a little diamond. There's no little diamond here. This is not unique. So you can have like 2 of these installed, and then if the corp ever wants to purge your Amakua or your ridiculous Audrey which you've got going, then they have to basically trash all of HQ. Or they have to play it all first and then trash it so they don't lose the cards. And if you can recur enough of these, then at what point does the corp just be completely unable to purge anymore because they're just going to mill themselves out? And that wouldn't be a problem if, as long as Anarch doesn't get a load of program recursion. Ooh. Yeah. This is interesting. Now, the other thing that this can do, you can run archives and you can pick up a virus before it purges, right? Because when you are accessing, you may host it face up instead, so you don't access it. So you can run archives and put a virus onto this. Now, importantly, if there's 2 viruses in archives, you can never use this. But there's always that clause that you can never use this as long as the corp is prepared to trash 2 cards randomly from HQ. Unlike Culation, which can grab a virus out of archives, but you still have to hit it first. Unlike Culation. Wait, have I said that wrong? I read that as if you run archives and there's a virus, then you could host it on here instead of accessing it. Yeah, cool. I am right. That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, and I mean, it's probably all right as long as like virus-based anarchs aren't strong at any point, right? Yeah, this it looks, I don't know. I genuinely don't know what to think about this card because it could be so stupidly broken. It could be incredibly powerful, or it could be the most powerful card that no one plays, which isn't named Light the Fire. Like, what do you think? I don't know what to think about this one. Because I'm gonna be playing it. Um, I mean, who plays it? Like Shaper can play this, obviously. Anox could play this. Are you playing three of them? Don't know. Maybe. Um, like against certain matchups, this is insane. And as long as there's not any corps which are sort of really keen on chucking a load of cards into archives. This seems like a mental card to put out in the same set as Nuvem, doesn't it? Does it? Like, is this just? I mean, I'm sure there's more thought to this, and maybe this is because of Nuvem. Maybe there's something that Nuvem's going to do which makes like you think, like, oh, what do I need to do here? Um, yeah, yeah, and like Tanuki says, like just the two card tax on a purge, like could be very, very worth the install, right? Like if you're playing kind of like real control criminal and you're 419 and you've got a turtle down and the turtle's getting like up in counters and you're just locking the remote and all the corp can kind of do is like flood up in hand and you install it. One of these, like, are they purging? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you can. Like, if you've got two or three agendas in hand and they've got Hermes down as well. Yeah, this looks really interesting. Um, I think this is going to be potentially like brokenly strong. Uh, I think this could potentially be the card that people want banned. Maybe. But yeah. Um, Shout out before anything. This is Guy Patching's guess. And this is what I'm going to be writing on my version because I think this is pretty much bang on in terms of actually getting the idea of the card. The first time you would access bullshit from archives, host the bullshit on this program and give the finger to your opponents. Use this ability whenever your opponent does that little smirk when you access archives. Uh, Guy absolutely nailing that, I think. Excellent work. Cool. Thanks for coming to my TED talk. Um, like, I don't think I can play any Netrunner tonight because I'm just like pretty like scooped out, and now I just want to play with new cards. However, next Monday, um, I'm kind of hoping that the set will be like out and on JNet on the Monday. Like Noah, please, please, because like, oh man, do I want to build some decks for next Monday? It's also my birthday. Kind of it. It's, my birthday's on the Tuesday, but I'm gonna assuming the cards are in JNet, then I'm gonna do like one hell of a stream. It's gonna be a lot of fun. Just before I go as well, that is not that is not what I wanted. But just a second, and I will correct that. Um, uh, Shout out to there's a Chimera tournament coming up, which is going to be run by Man in the Moon and Charlie. So that's on the 6th of the 4th. That's like in a month's time. Check out the link on Always Be Running. And yeah, sign up for that. Other than that, go and have some fun with some cards and some theory crafting because uh, scoops are cool so far. Neon Static is coming up in about 2 hours. Um, their link is already up. I assume their link will work. They're a bit more slick than I am. So go and check them out. They've got some Anarch cards, so they'll probably all be absolutely freaking busted. I'll stick some stuff in the. I'll stick the story. I know someone wanted to read the story. I will put a link to that in the description now before I forget. Uh, and if you haven't already, I'd love it if some of you who haven't already could hit the subscribe button, because I'm never going to get a chance when there's more of you like watching at one time. So maybe give that button a hit. Come and watch me play some stupid decks on Monday nights, or Monday mornings, or Monday days, whenever it is for you. Thank you very much, everyone. Uh, I'll see you next week.